Hello, Incarnate Acres Farm here with a video on our introduction of the rams to the turkeys. So we've got a turkey flock that we started back in May, right around Mother's Day, and these guys have been kind of our favorite animal on the farm just to watch and hang out with for the last few months. Up until now, they have been in a poultry netting paddock that has the really fine 3x3 inch squares on it, and they were doing pretty well in that. That's what they were in from the moment they left the brooder. And we also have our rams here, who up until recently were in a just a poly reel paddock, you know, the poly braid, poly twine, whatever you want to call it, the strands that you can electrify that are on the reels that you use to make a 3 or 4 or 5 string paddock. They were out in one of those, but around August 1st, we lit off some fireworks that we had left over from 4th of July, and these guys got scared of that, even though it was clear on the other side of the property, and ran through their paddock. And that was their light bulb moment, apparently, where they decided that they did not need to stay within the confines of the paddock. And around that time, they also discovered that our ewe flock was just right on the other side of some shrubs that they couldn't see through until then. So they proceeded to break out of that poly reel paddock for 2 days straight, and we decided we need to get them in something more secure. So the ewes are still in their netting paddock, clear over there, kind of moving toward the other corner of the property. And the boys here are in what I'm going to call our Supermax security netting. It's positive, negative, so every other strand is hot, and then the strands between the hot strands are all grounded. So we've been having a pretty nice and wet August so far, but if it does dry up a bit, they don't need to rely only on the connection through the ground to get shocked. If they, put their nose up onto that fence and touch the ground wire and the hot wire, they're going to get a good zap across their face and back off and not try and nudge their way under the net, I hope. So, that's what we're hoping for, at least. This is about as secure a paddock as I have, so if they get out of this, then they're going to be in the barn until it's breeding time, unfortunately, which I want to avoid if I can. So we did not want to run the turkeys and the rams as two separate flocks, because if you count our ewe flock over there, in that scenario, we would have 3 different flocks that we'd be running, all with electric netting. And I love electric netting. It is a lot more secure than the poly braid reels, this stuff that I'm using to run power out to the paddock here. A lot more secure than that, as I've found out the hard way. But it is also a bit of a pain to set up and move compared to the poly reel paddocks. So, because we don't want to move 3 different groups of animals in netting, we decided to merge the rams in with the turkeys here. And we're gonna see how that goes. We've never done this before. The rams are pretty docile. We've had them in the barn in an area that the chickens had access to before, and they did not bother the chickens at all, and the chickens didn't really seem to bother them at all. They've got along just fine. No one got injured or hurt or anything. So the turkeys are even bigger. They are a bit more able to, fly and get away if something happens. So I'm thinking we'll be okay here, but we will see how it goes. We'll keep you guys updated. And really what the next steps to this are going to be, assuming the introduction goes well, which seems to be so far, is we're going to figure out how to get this mobile shelter modified a bit to give the turkeys a better place to roost, because they like getting as high up as they can get, and I'm not sure that this little 3 foot off the ground roof is going to be enough for them. So I'm probably going to add another roosting bar to the top of this. It's about maybe 2 feet off of the surface. That'll give them about a 5-foot roost height off the ground. And then I also want to get a little bit of a roof over that roosting bar so that they can be out of the elements when they're roosting, and maybe more importantly, so that they can have their feed covered by something. You can see they're all eating out of that green feeder right now, which is just up on the roof, and it's already starting to rain a little bit, very lightly. But if we get a good downpour and there's any feed in that, it's gonna get completely swamped and be wasted. So I'm gonna try to get a way to keep that feed nice and dry for them, and especially as winter comes on, hopefully keep them dry and a bit out of the elements when they're roosting. These guys are borderline wild turkeys, so they don't seem to really care quite as much about being out in the elements. You know, I've seen them roost on that A-frame that we were using for their shelter previously and just be, you know, right up, lined up along the top of it in complete torrential downpours before. So they don't seem to mind, but especially as winter comes on, we're going to try to keep these guys over the winter. I want to make sure they've got a little bit of a space to stay out of the elements. And then from what I've been researching, the only real risk to them at this point is going to be a great horned owl, which I haven't seen any around here, but we are in their natural range. And apparently they like to attack at night by just swooping straight down onto animals and grabbing them in their claws and going at them. So if you have a roof over the top of them when they're roosting, that should greatly reduce the risk of an owl attack at night. So we're gonna do it for that reason as well here. But we will maybe give you an update when I get that structure built on top of the ram shelter here, and until then they can all cozy up underneath there together if it gets a little too rainy or windy out here. So God bless. We'll let you know how this goes. Have a good day.